Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and remember, Context is Everything Media Network founder and CEO John Michael is reading a textbook, cover to cover. Today, we're starting a new chapter. And guess what? This chapter ends in 1914, just like the last one, and the one before that, meaning this is probably a build-up to World War I. Not good. So, world history textbook, the new imperialism. Today. Here we go. New Imperialism, 1800 to 1914. Context is Everything Media Network. John Michael, founder and CEO, CFO, social media manager. Social media manager tells you please subscribe, please like. I'll continue to talk. I'll start to make a show soon, or I just talk. So, here's this. Now. Section 1, Chapter 25. A Western-dominated world. Aldi's. Always the best. Gotta trust the Aldi's. Always trust the Aldi's. That would just be in like 3-part harmony, like those old radio commercials. Wasting a lot of time here. Wasting a lot of time. Okay. Please like and subscribe. A Western-dominated world. Setting the scene. Edward VII inherited the British throne in 1901. His empire extended far beyond Britain. One writer boasted, "The sun never sets on the British Empire." In other words, because the empire circled the globe, the sun always shone on some part of it. Like Britain, other Western powers built overseas empires in the late 1800s. The Industrial Revolution and the growth of science and technologies has transformed the West. Armed with new economic and political power, Western nations set out to dominate the world. New chapter, new glasses. The new imperialism heading and its causes. European imperialism did not begin in the 1800s. Imperialism is the domination by one country of the political, economic, and cultural life of another country or region. As you've learned, European states won empires in the Americas after 1492, established colonies in South Asia, and gained toeholds on the coast of Africa and China. Despite these gains between 1500 and 1800, Europe had little influence on the lives of peoples of China, India, or Africa. By the 1800s, however, Europe had gained considerable power. Strong, centrally governed nation-states had emerged, and the Industrial Revolution had greatly enriched European economies. Encouraged by the new economic and military strength, Europeans embarked on the path of aggressive expansion that today's historians call the new imperialism. Like other key developments in world history, the new imperialism exploded out of a combination of causes. Economic interests. The Industrial Revolution created needs and desires that spurred overseas expansion. Manufacturers wanted access to natural resources such as rubber, petroleum, manganese, and steel. Palm oil for machinery as well. Palm oil for machinery. Palm oil? We eat palm oil. Do you think palm oil might be unhealthy for our bodies? Will it stop me? Hopefully. I'll stop eating it, rather. They also hoped for new markets where they could sell factory goods. In addition, colonies offered a valuable outlet for European factory goods. For Europe's growing population. Lord Frederick Lugyard, a British empire builder, tried to justify imperialism in Africa with these words. The necessity that is upon us is to provide for our ever-growing population. One more time. The necessity is upon us to provide for our ever-growing population, either by opening new fields of immigration or by providing work and employment, and to stimulate trade by finding new markets. Lord Lugard, the rise of our East African Empire. Political and military interests. Closely linked to economic motives were political and military issues. Steam-powered merchant ships and naval vessels needed bases around the world to take on coal supplies. Industrial powers seized islands or harbors to satisfy these needs. Nationalism played an important role too. When France, for example, moved into West Africa, rival nations like Britain and Germany seized lands nearby to halt further French expansion. Western leaders claimed that colonies were needed for national security and improved soccer teams. That is not a racial comment. That is just a matter of fact. The French national team is highly populated by colonized citizens of France from African states. That is indisputable. Why are you calling me that? What are you calling me that for? It's indisputable. It's a fact. Look it up. Look up the roster. Please, look up the French national team roster right now. Soccer team. Please. Am I wrong? Am I making this up? Colonization. Imperialism. Made them a better soccer nation. Am I wrong? Am I lying? Am I making it up? I'm not judging. I'm just saying it made them a better soccer nation. They're not mainland French. They're not the mainland French. There's a couple of them, though. Like, yeah, the guy with the nice hair, Giroux. He's French, like from mainland French, probably lineage in France. Granted, this is lineage. It's just, if it were 150 years previous, these individuals would be playing on a different nation's soccer team. Humanitarian goals. Many Westerners felt a genuine concern for their little brothers beyond the seas. Missionaries, doctors, and colonial officials believed that they had a duty to spread what they saw as a blessing of Western civilization, including its medicine, law, and Christian values. Social Darwinism. Behind the idea of civilizing mission was a growing sense in the West of radical superiority. Many Westerners had embraced the ideas of social Darwinism. They applied Darwin's ideas about natural selection and survival of the fittest to human societies. European races, they argued, were superior to all others, and imperial conquest and destruction of weaker races were simply nature's way of improving the human species. Why'd they exclamation point that? I have not seen one exclamation point in this entire textbook until that one, outside of quotations, of course. Why did they exclamation point that? Let me read that sentence again. The first exclamation point in 618 pages in the body of the text, not including quotes. Of course, quotes have exclamation points in them. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little fired up for my dog canine viewership here. I know that this is a great show to keep your dogs company throughout your day when you're doing your necessary tasks that bring you outside of the home, where your dog is going to stay most of the time, right? And so when you put this channel on for your dog, today I apologize, I'm getting a little fired up, and I might be frightening your small dog. Large dog might just be irritated by me, that's fine. European races, I'm reading again the thing that had the exclamation point, they argued were superior to all others, and imperial conquest and destruction of weaker races were simply nature's way of improving the human species. Why did they exclamation point that? It's not a quote. You're just telling me what these wackos thought, and now you're putting an exclamation. To me, a strange choice from the editor. A strange choice. That's all I'm saying. New heading. No sunglasses. The success of Western imperialism. Just in a few decades, from about 1870 to 1914, imperialist nations gained control over much of the world. Leading the way were soldiers, merchants, settlers, missionaries, and explorers. In Europe, imperial expansion found favor with all classes, from the bankers and manufacturers to workers. Western imperialism succeeded for a number of reasons. Weakness of northwestern states. Weakness of non-Western states. While European nations had grown stronger in the 1800s, several older civilizations were in decline, especially the Ottoman Middle East, Mughal India, and Qing China. Qing, is it Qing? I forget. In West Africa, wars among African peoples and the draining effect of the slave trade had undermined established empires, kingdoms, and city-states. Newer African states were not strong enough to resist the Western onslaught. Western advantages. Europeans had the advantages of strong armies, well-organized governments, and powerful economies. Superior technology and improved medical knowledge also played a role. Quinine and other new medicines helped Europeans survive deadly tropical diseases. Isn't quinine one of the things that the conspiracy theorists said was good for COVID? I don't remember. Sounds like it. That's like the horse one, right? Quinine, the horse dewormer. And of course, advances in the Maxim machine guns, repeated rifles, and steam-driven warships were very strong arguments in pursuing Africans and Asians to accept the Western control. As in England, As an English writer sarcastically noted, "Whatever happens, we have got the Maxim gun, and they have not." Resistance. Africans and Asians strongly resisted Western expansion into their lands. Some people fought the invaders even though they had no weapons to equal the Maxim gun. As you will read, ruling groups in certain areas tried to strengthen their societies against outsiders by reforming their own Muslim, Hindu, and Confucian traditions. Finally, many Western-educated Africans and Asians organized nationalist movements to expel the imperialists from their lands. Criticism at home. In the West itself, a small group of anti-imperialists emerged. Some argued that colonialism was a tool of the rich. Others said it was immoral. Westerners, they pointed out, were moving toward greater democracy at home, but were imposing undemocratic rule on other people. The new imperialism stood, one English critic protested, not for a widened and ennobled sense of national responsibility, but for a hard assertion of racial supremacy and material force. Probably some truth to that. New heading. And final heading. I hope you have a wonderful day after the next 4 minutes of me reading. Forms of imperial rule. The new imperialism took several forms. In some areas, imperial powers established colonies. Elsewhere, they set up protectorates and spheres of influence. Colonies. France and Britain, the leading imperial powers, practiced direct rule, sending officials and soldiers from France to administer their colonies. Their goal was to impose French culture on their colonies and turn them into French provinces. British, by contrast, relied on the system of indirect rule. To govern their colonies, they used sultans, chiefs, or other local rulers. They then encouraged the children of the local ruling class to get educated in Britain. In that way, they groomed a new, westernized generation of leaders to continue indirect imperial rule and to spread British civilization. Like France and other imperialist nations, however, Britain could still resort to military force if its control over the colony was threatened in any way. Protectorates. In a protectorate, local rulers were left in place but were expected to follow the advice of the European advisors on issues such as trade or missionary activity. A protectorate cost less to run than a colony did, and usually did not require a large commitment of military force. And finally, spheres of influence. A third form of Western control was the sphere of influence, an area in which an outside power claimed exclusive investment or trading privileges. Europeans carved out these spheres in China and elsewhere to prevent conflicts among themselves. The United States claimed Latin America as its sphere of influence. This is John Michael from the Context is Everything Media Network. Thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, please like, please subscribe, and if you like me rambling in between certain things, talking about the French national soccer team and how it's greatly aided by the French imperialist desires between 1870 and 1914, follow and subscribe. I will be talking more about things of that nature because I just talk about whatever I think about, and that's something that I thought about when I read that. So if you like that tone, follow along. If you don't, that's fine. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. And here's a pat on the head for the little dog who's watching while you're away. Just put a playlist on for the dog. Let it go. Have a good day. God bless. Goodbye.